Well, the story of Riri Williams as Ironheart in the MCU started last week, and already within a week it's over because Marvel had absolutely no faith in this series, rightly so, because it was a gigantic pile of shit. But after it debuted the first 3 episodes last night, we got the debut of the final 3 episodes of Ironheart, and now it's all over. And spoiler alert, it ends on a cliffhanger, a show that was made 3 years ago. That we have no confirmation of we'll ever see any of these characters again, ended on a cliffhanger of all things. But when it comes to Ironheart, they wanted it to be a short discussion about this show. They wanted to put out as quickly as they could to bury it with all these other things coming out and then kind of forget about it. Because let's just face it, the reaction to this series has been about exactly as expected. When you look at IMDb, see it's at a 3.8. And despite removing a lot of the negative reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, it still is hovering at around 50% from the audience. And when it comes to the numbers, well, Disney's been pretty quiet about the numbers for Ironheart. They haven't said anything, and it did not make the Luminate ratings chart, the streaming originals ratings chart, in the first couple days of its release either. But we had to talk about this ending. And yeah, I'm going to talk about a couple things that do happen. And a lot of these things were spoiled months or even years before the show came out because it's been in limbo for so long. But I do have to say, I got to give them credit. This is one of the best page-to-screen adaptations of a Marvel comic book character that we've seen in quite some time. Because in the comic books, Riri Williams is kind of like a greedy, narcissistic criminal who is very unpopular. Nobody reads the books. Nobody cares. It got canceled multiple times. And in this, they decided to make her a greedy, narcissistic criminal who, by the way, happens to make a deal with essentially the devil so she could be iconic. It is the perfect depiction of Riri Williams because she is not a hero. This is a villain origin story, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what we saw play out. I thought the pacing of this series was all over the place. It felt so rushed at times, and the introduction, especially in like episode 4 of the Magic arc, seemed so incredibly forced. The big fight at the end, they spent all this time building Riri Williams' Ironheart suit, and there's like a nothing burger of a fight basically in an upper apartment of that closed up pizza shop that they're in. To me, the show's embarrassing on multiple levels. Subjectively, I just couldn't stand any of the characters involved. Couldn't stand them. And you had to love the little fight scene that they had. You know, the 2 people they have on this criminal gang that are specifically known for their fighting? Well, too bad they had to go up against Riri Williams. She was able to, avoid them. She was able to outmaneuver them. She was able to outfight them and eventually outsmart them. Why are you there then? I'm not sure. The drag queen was one of the most annoying characters we've seen in any Marvel project. And overall, like I said, Riri Williams is not a likable or sympathetic character. They go out of your way to try to make her the victim of everything. They go out of their way to try to make you feel like she's being looked over. But the funny part is when Mephisto, essentially the devil, when Mephisto lays all these things about what a victim she is and how people don't see her and all this stuff, it plays right into her narcissistic ego, which is why people really don't like this character. I think they did the right thing with the character in this story. If they were to have her be like, no, I've changed. I want to help people, which would be contrary to her entire attitude and entire arc throughout the whole series, that it would have been such an easy way for them to try to be like, look, there's her arc. But no, this is not a hero's story. This is not somebody that wants to help anyone that's not themselves or maybe their family from time to time. This is somebody who is a narcissist. This is someone who is greedy. This is someone who only cares about getting recognized. That's who Riri Williams is. That's why she's not likable. And she sells her soul to Mephisto as a cliffhanger in this series that probably is never going to get another entry. And what a waste, by the way. I actually think Sacha Baron Cohen, I think, is pretty solid Mephisto. But what a waste to introduce Mephisto, a top-tier Marvel bad guy, Not in, I don't know, Multiverse of Madness. Not in, I don't know, WandaVision, something to do with the Scarlet Witch. But no, in Ironheart. And you let Riri Williams have control of magic. You have her have a magic-infused suit that she doesn't even test, just goes out and suddenly knows how to work it. Like all this stuff for a nothing burger of a payoff with the fight at the end. And Mephisto makes his first appearance in the Ironheart series, of all places. I guess we'll see. Maybe Disney will eventually put out one of these, hey guys, it got this many million views. And if you compare it to everything else that came out, it's actually not that good. You know, they did that 5 or 6 days after with Daredevil Born Again. They did that 8 days after with Agatha All Along. Well, it's been that amount of time for Ironheart. It's been that amount of time for Ironheart. They haven't said anything yet. Strange. But maybe we'll see eventually how Ironheart actually performs in the ratings, because one thing's for sure, not a lot of people like this series, and understandably so.